They called me selfish just because I didn't want to be her free Uber. I'm in my late 50s. I've worked my whole life, raised kids, paid mortgages, and I finally have the luxury of driving a decent car that I bought with my own money. Among my group of friends, I'm one of the few who actually has reliable transportation. At first, I didn't think twice about giving rides here and there. It's what friends do, right? But one friend, let's call her Jenna, decided my car wasn't just mine. She decided it was hers too. It started small, as these things always do. A quick ride after a night out, a stop by the grocery store on the way home. I didn't mind. Gas is a couple bucks, and honestly, it felt good to help. But the thing about people like Jenna, they don't see a favor. They see a service. And once you become the guy with the car, you're no longer a friend, you're a resource. Suddenly, my phone was lighting up almost daily. Can you take me to the gym? Can you drop me at work? My boyfriend's place is across town. You're heading that way anyway, right? Never a thank you. Never even a token $5 for gas. Just the assumption that my time, my car, my gas were automatically hers. And maybe the younger me would have brushed it off. Maybe I'd have thought, what's the big deal? It's just a ride. But when you've spent decades working, budgeting, and managing responsibilities, you start to measure things differently. Every trip has a cost, not just in gas, but in time. We're on the car, energy. By the third week, I realized Jenna had stopped even pretending it was a request. Her texts sounded more like orders. Pick me up at 7. I need a ride tomorrow morning. No question marks. No please. Just expectation. The final straw came on a Saturday morning. My one day to sleep in, drink coffee in peace, maybe read the paper before the day gets busy. At 7:02 a.m., my phone buzzed. Jenna, hey, I need a ride to the airport. No good morning. No, do you have time? Just a demand. I stared at the message for a long minute, then typed back, no, I've got plans. Which was true. My plan was to not be her chauffeur. That's when the fireworks started. She blew up my phone with messages. How selfish I was. How friends are supposed to be there when you need them. How I clearly didn't care about her. Funny thing, in 55 years, I've learned that when someone starts guilt-tripping you for setting a boundary, it's because they've been crossing it for a long time. After that airport meltdown, word spread through our friend group faster than wildfire. Apparently, Jenna had no shame in telling everyone I abandoned her at a critical moment. You'd think I left her stranded on the side of the highway with a broken leg, not sitting in her apartment with Uber and Lyft literally one tap away. But here's the kicker. Some of the guys in the group actually bought her story. A couple of them said, come on, man, it's just one ride. You could have helped her out. As if I hadn't already been helping her out for weeks. That's when I realized how invisible generosity can be. People only see the one time you say no. They never notice the 50 times you said yes. I sat there, listening to these so-called friends suggest I was being petty. I didn't even bother arguing. Men my age know the truth. When you start defending yourself against a taker, you've already lost. They don't care about logic. They care about what they're getting from you. So instead of explaining, I just asked a simple question. Has Jenna ever driven any of you anywhere? Silence. Not one of them could say yes. Then I followed it up with, has she ever offered gas money, even once? Again, silence. You could hear the gears turning. They knew I was right, but people don't like admitting they've been siding with the leech. That's when I understood. This wasn't just about Jenna. This was about me finally setting a boundary in a group that had gotten a little too comfortable with me being the responsible guy with a car. And here's something men 55 plus will nod their heads at. When you provide stability, people confuse it with availability. They think because you can handle things, you should handle their things too. It's a dangerous trap, and I'd fallen right into it. So I decided to let Jenna and the group sit with their opinions. I wasn't going to argue. I wasn't going to justify. I had said no, and I was going to stand by it. Funny enough, a couple of days later, Jenna texted me again. Can you take me to the gym? No apology. No acknowledgement of the blow-up. Just back to business as usual. This time, I didn't even bother replying. After ignoring that gym request, I figured Jenna would get the message. Most adults, when faced with silence, eventually realize the well has run dry. Not Jenna. The next day, she called me. Actually called, not just texted, like it was the 1980s and I owed her something. I let it go to voicemail, but her message was priceless. She said, hey, I don't know what's going on with you, but I really need a ride later. Don't leave me hanging. Don't leave her hanging. The choice of words stuck with me, as if my existence revolved around making sure her plans worked out. That was the moment I stopped being annoyed and started feeling insulted. So I did what any rational adult would do. I blocked her number. Simple, clean, final. Of course, that didn't go over well. She found me through mutual friends again, this time blowing up our group chat. Wow, my name blocked me just because I asked for a ride? Some friend he turned out to be. And here's the part that really makes you laugh. She framed it as if I betrayed her. Like I was supposed to feel guilty for not continuing free taxi duty. In my 55 years, I've learned a hard truth. People like Jenna don't want friends. They want assets, tools, resources. And the second you stop being useful, they'll paint you as the villain. The good news? Not everyone bought her sob story. A couple of people in the group started to catch on. One guy finally said, "Jenna, maybe you should get your own car." She snapped back with, "Not everyone has money like that." Which is hilarious, considering she spends more in a month on nights out and takeout than I spend on car insurance. By that point, I was done. No more half measures. No more entertaining her guilt trips. If she wanted a chauffeur, she could hire one. The next weekend, I drove past the gym and, what do you know? There she was, standing outside, clearly waiting for a ride. Not from me, obviously. She looked down at her phone, pacing, annoyed. I'll be honest, I smiled the whole drive home. Not because I enjoy watching someone struggle, but because I finally knew it wasn't my problem anymore. And the thing about finally saying no? It feels better than you think. There's a peace that comes with reclaiming your time. The fallout didn't stop with Jenna pacing outside the gym. The real test came when the groups started dividing into camps. Half of them stayed quiet, which, in my book, means they understood I wasn't wrong but didn't want to get dragged into drama. The other half, they started parroting Jenna's line. Friends are supposed to be there for each other. Now, let me pause right there. I'm old enough to know the difference between friendship and freeloading. Friendship is helping each other out. Freeloading is one-sided, always flowing in their favor. What Jenna was doing wasn't friendship, it was unpaid labor. But explaining that felt pointless. People who haven't had boundaries crossed can't always recognize it. So instead of arguing, I did what men my age have learned works best. I just stuck to facts. I told them, I've driven her to the gym, to work, to her boyfriend's place. She's never once offered gas money. She's never once offered to return the favor. And then I asked one question. Would you do that for weeks on end, at your own expense? Silence. Nobody wanted to admit the obvious, that they wouldn't last a week in my shoes. Still, a couple of them muttered things like, yeah, but the airport's important. As if my Saturday morning peace was less important. At 55, you learn that time is more valuable than anything. And if someone won't respect that, they don't respect you. Meanwhile, Jenna doubled down. She started posting little digs online, cryptic quotes about fake friends and selfish people. I didn't even have to guess who those were aimed at. Honestly, I laughed. When you hit my age, you realize public pity parties are just free advertising that you cut the cord on someone toxic. But here's the twist. Some of the quieter friends started reaching out privately. One of them said, "You know, I kind of get it. She's been writing you for months. I just didn't say anything." Another admitted, "She asked me to, but I told her no right away. Guess she figured you'd never push back." That's when it clicked. Jenna wasn't just using me. She'd tested other people too, but I was the one dumb enough to let it slide for too long. Well, not anymore. I told the group flat out, "Look, I'm done being the free ride. She can call Uber, Lyft, a cab, or her boyfriend. But my car is no longer her solution." Some respected it. Some rolled their eyes. Jenna, of course, called me cold. But I'll tell you what, I've lived long enough to know that saying no is one of the warmest things you can do for yourself. A week passed in relative silence, and honestly, I enjoyed every minute of it. No buzzing phone, no guilt-tripping texts, no early morning emergencies. I thought maybe Jenna had finally gotten the message. Turns out, I underestimated her persistence. She showed up in person. That's right. She actually came by my place one evening, unannounced. I opened the door, and there she was, wearing her innocent smile, the same one she'd used 100 times before when asking for rides. "Hey," she said, all casual. "I was in the neighborhood. Now, let me explain something. People don't just drop by in my neighborhood. If you're here, it's because you made a trip," which meant she had one purpose. Sure enough, after a few minutes of small talk, She got to the point. So, I've got this doctor's appointment next week. Could you maybe? I cut her off right there. No, Jenna, I can't. The look on her face was priceless, like no one had ever dared to interrupt her mid-request. She tried to laugh it off. Oh, come on, it's just one time. You don't have to make it a big deal. But here's what she didn't get. It was a big deal. Not the appointment, not the ride, the principle. She was testing the fence, pushing to see if my boundary had any weak spots. And at 55, I've learned the most important lesson of all. If you give an inch to a user, they'll always take the mile. So I looked her dead in the eye and said, Jenna, I'm not your chauffeur. I'm not your fallback plan. If you need a ride, there are services for that. I'm not one of them. She froze. For the first time in months, she didn't have a quick comeback. She stammered something about not meaning to cause trouble and left. The silence after the door closed was the sweetest sound I'd heard in a while. Later that night, my buddy called me. Apparently, Jenna had already spun the story again, this time claiming I snapped at her when she was just asking politely. Funny how freeloaders always edit the story to make themselves the victim. But here's the part that made me smile. My buddy didn't buy it. He told her flat out, well, maybe stop treating him like a taxi. And that's when I realized my boundary wasn't just helping me. It was teaching the rest of the group where the line was too. After that doorstep showdown, the air in the friend group shifted. You could feel it, like when a storm has finally passed and people aren't sure if the clouds are really gone. Jenna didn't stop talking about me, but the tone changed. Instead of blasting me outright, she started dropping hints. Some people forget what friendship means, or not everyone is as reliable as they pretend to be. Classic guilt trip theater. But here's the thing about being in your 50s, you stop caring about whispers. At this age, I've been through divorces, layoffs, broken friendships, and funerals. A 30-something throwing shade on Facebook? That doesn't even register on my stress scale. What mattered was how the group reacted. And this time, they didn't rush to defend her. A couple even cracked jokes. Guess she'll have to order an Uber like the rest of us mortals. You could see the cracks forming in her little pity campaign. Then something happened that sealed it. One of the younger guys in our circle had just bought his first car. Guess who immediately tried latching onto him? Yep, Jenna. And guess how long that lasted? 2 rides. By the second, he told her, hey, gas isn't free. She got offended and stopped asking him. That's when the truth became impossible to ignore. It wasn't about me being selfish. It was about her being entitled. Once everyone saw her pull the same stunt on someone else, my selfishness turned into common sense. For the first time in months, the group chat felt normal again. No digs, no drama, just actual friends making plans. Jenna still floated around, but she was quieter, less demanding, almost like she'd realized the free ride era was officially over. And for me, the whole thing was liberating. At my age, you start trimming the fat in your life. Bad habits, toxic people, wasted time. Saying no to her wasn't just about rides. It was about drawing a line that should have been there a long time ago. I remember sitting in my car one morning, sipping coffee before work, just enjoying the silence. No buzzing phone, no guilt, just peace. And I thought, funny how the smallest word, no, can buy you the most freedom. Because here's the truth men my age already know. People will take as much as you allow. The minute you stop allowing it, you stop being their resource and start being your own man again. And I'll take that over being the nice guy with a car any day. The last time Jenna ever tried to pull me back in was almost anticlimactic. She texted me out of the blue on a Sunday afternoon. Hey, can you take me to Target real quick? That was it. No greeting, no context, no hint that maybe she realized how absurd this had all become. Just another order, like nothing had changed. I didn't even hesitate. I typed one word back. No. No explanation, no excuse, no soft landing. Just no. And you know what? It felt cleaner than anything I'd said in months. Because at 55, I've learned something people half my age still struggle with. You don't owe anyone a 5-paragraph essay for setting a boundary. She replied with a wall of texts, accusations, guilt trips, the usual script. I didn't bother reading them. I deleted the thread and blocked her for good. That was the last time she ever reached out. When the group found out, reactions were mixed again. Some said, man, you could have been nicer about it. Others said, about time you shut that down. But here's the thing. I didn't need their approval anymore. The situation wasn't up for debate. It reminded me of something my father once told me. Respect works like currency. If you keep giving it away for free, pretty soon, no one values it. I hadn't really understood it in my 20s or 30s. But standing there in my 50s, car keys in hand, finally free from someone else's demands, it made perfect sense. Life gets shorter the older you get. You can't waste it on people who think you're their safety net. You can't waste it driving in circles for someone who wouldn't walk 10 feet for you. So I made peace with losing Jenna as a friend. Because the truth is, she was never really a friend. She was a passenger, literally and figuratively. And once I stopped being her driver, she had no use for me. That's not a loss. That's a win. I don't know if she ever figured it out, or if she just moved on to someone else willing to play chauffeur. Doesn't matter. What matters is I learned to guard my time and energy a little better. And maybe that's the moral here. At some point in life, you stop caring about keeping every single person happy, and you start caring about keeping your own peace. Because peace, unlike gas, isn't something you can refill at the pump. Once it's gone, it's gone. And I'll be damned if I ever let someone like Jenna burn through mine again. Looking back, I can almost laugh at how long it took me to say a simple word, no. Months of rides, wasted gas, and frustration, all because I didn't want to come across as selfish. But selfishness is a funny label. It usually comes from people who benefit the most when you put yourself last. Jenna didn't call me selfish the 50 times I gave her a ride. She only called me selfish the one time I stopped. That tells you everything you need to know about her definition of friendship. At my age, you get clarity that younger folks often miss. You learn that respect, time, and energy are limited resources. People who value you will protect those things. People who don't, well, they'll drain you until you wise up. And here's the wisdom I'd pass on to anyone listening, especially the men who know what it's like to always be the dependable one. Don't mistake being dependable for being disposable. There's a line, and if you don't draw it, no one else will. Since cutting ties with Jenna, life has been quieter, lighter. The group eventually adjusted. The ones who understood stayed. The ones who didn't, well, they were probably more her friends than mine anyway. And that's fine. Trimming dead weight is part of life. Funny enough, I've had a couple of guys from the group privately tell me they respected the way I handled it. Not because I blew up, not because I made a scene, but because I stood firm, calm, and final. In a world where everyone's bending over backwards to please others, sometimes the strongest move is standing still. And to the ones who think I was harsh, I'll put it this way. I worked decades for the car I drive, the gas in the tank, and the peace in my mornings. I'll be damned if anyone thinks they're entitled to it for free. So no, I'm not her Uber. I never was. I was a friend until she turned me into a service. And once she did that, the friendship ended on its own. The takeaway? Protect your time. Guard your boundaries. And remember that saying no doesn't make you the bad guy. It makes you the guy who still has gas in his tank, literally and figuratively, for the people who actually matter. And if someone calls that selfish, good. Sometimes selfish is just another word for sane.